Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erin and welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another episode of Open Money, where we talk to real people about their real personal financial journeys. On this episode, we are speaking with Nathan. Nathan has a passion for finances and is hoping to one day be able to retire early.
My name's Nathan. I'm from Elkhart, Indiana, and I'm 28 years old.
Well, welcome to the channel and thank you for doing this.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me.
Of course. Well, if you want to start out by talking about what your financial situation looks like.
Sure. Yeah. Put together a little spreadsheet here.
I love a good spreadsheet.
Yeah, I'm an accountant, so I like I like Excel or sheets.
Yes.
So yeah, some good maybe and some not so good things. So yeah, I'll start off with the bad. So cash is kind of low right now. It's probably about 1,500 or $2,000.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of emergency fund, I guess I'd say, or whatever, just checking.
Yeah.
So, a fun one is Robinhood, which is kind of my fun account, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
And that's almost 7,400, I'd say. Can
Nice.
swing a little bit. Probably a little, we'll get back to it. It's probably a little high compared to some other things.
Do you do individual stocks in Robinhood?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I enjoy that. I mean, I have some, I think it's about 50-50 right now,
Yeah.
ETFs and my own stocks, which we can get into if you want. But yeah, I try to do something different than what might be in retirement or in retirement. Just I don't see the point of having the same thing in two different places.
That makes sense. What do the retirement accounts look like?
Yeah, so I've got two for work and one that and then one Roth IRA, which is outside
Yeah.
with brokerage. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So for work, there's two. One is like 401b,
Mm-hmm.
and that's I believe at around 10,500. That's a little bit of an estimate. And the other is actually a pension to the state of Indiana, who I work for.
Nice.
And so that one's around 15,000 I have. And then the Roth IRA, excuse me, which I contribute $400 a month. And I think I started that in 2019, I think.
Okay, nice.
Anyway, that's up to a little over $7,800.
Nice.
One thing I forgot, and I don't know what that's sitting at because I've had some expenses, is HSA. I've kind of been building that up for a couple years now. After I turned 26, got off my parents' insurance. And then the last thing is house equity, which was a little hard to estimate, but I think that's around $15,000 of what I've actually put into it after fees and everything. And I just moved into it last year, so it's kind of
Hey, I did a home last year too. What a great year to buy a home, right?
Yeah, well, not so much, but we can get into that too if you want.
Well, what was your purchase price for your home?
Yeah, so one is like 134,000. Now I don't remember what all the like fees and stuff come to, but that was a book price. And that might not seem very high, but for how small it is in the area, it was very high for the time.
Yeah. And it's Indiana. I'm from Michigan, so I mean, I'm definitely relating to Midwest prices. We currently live out in the Northeast in Rhode Island, and there was sticker shock when we looked at homes out here. I'm like, well, I'm sorry, that's a starter home? Excuse me? So
Yeah, no, I can believe that. And the crazy thing, I want to say the assessed value, or like maybe I forget what the last selling price was, like 80,000 or something like that. And that was just a couple years
yeah.
before 2021. And a gentleman had done some renovation. And I don't know if it was because of the renovation or just depreciation, but that's it's like,
Maybe a little bit of both.
yeah, yeah. So anyway,
It's nice that you have a pension.
yeah, well, yeah, I hope things work out. I mean, there are some like time limits and things like that you have to work for, and so usually it's 10 years is kind of like the benchmark, and
Yeah.
then at least get something in retirement.
Well, stick it out for the 10 years. I like a good pension. And what do the debts look like?
Oh, good question. So, yeah, I was fortunate in some areas. So I would say, I mean, I run a credit card, but I always pay that off. I've never had interest. But the house, what I owe was like a little over 18,000, I would say.
That's
And
not much at all. You just bought this last year?
yeah, yeah.
You bought almost the entire house then last year.
Oh, no, I only paid for about 15,000 and I have like 118 left. So,
Oh, 118. I'm so
oh,
sorry.
sorry.
I heard 18,000.
Oh, oh yeah, maybe I said misspoke.
I
Sorry.
might have heard wrong, but I was like, oh my goodness, you're like almost paid off.
Yeah, if you can change that for me, that would be awesome.
If I could help, I would. So it's just the home and that's it?
Yeah, I have one other asset. I don't really consider it asset because I'll probably never sell it until it's worth nothing but my car.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm in the same boat there.
so yeah, that I guess that's was recently a liability and kind of an asset now, I guess.
So it's paid off.
Yeah, yeah,
Nice. It's nice to drive a paid off car.
yeah, yeah. Nice not to have that monthly
Yes.
payment.
So how much do you strive to put away for savings every month?
Oh, good question. So years ago, um, I always had the idea I wanted to save $1 million.
Okay, I love that goal.
And so when I started working, I kept doing numbers and kept doing numbers. And I kind of came up with an amount. And it gets all messed up depending on what, is going on. And so, and I also think it probably needs to be a little higher now, is maybe 1.5 or 2 million. And this is over, my goal was 30 years. So the idea was, I started roughly a little before, but say 25. So my
Okay.
goal was to retire at 55.
Yes.
And so I kind of crunched the numbers, uses the interest calculator at that time. And I kind of came up with the amounts. And so every month, the 401k and the pension, and then 400 to the Roth. And the Robinhood is kind of what I changed to try and make up the difference.
Okay.
So that came out to like $210 a month, and I haven't done that for a long time. It was at $100 a month,
Mm-hmm.
and then I kind of that kind of went out the window when I had fees for the house to pay.
Hey,
So
housing
I kind of,
expenses come up. That's
yeah,
true.
yeah, that's one thing I would recommend thinking about for anybody. There's so many, especially if you're not sure. Those costs do add up if you're not sure if you want to keep renting for a while.
Is this your first home?
Yeah, yeah, it is.
What kind of expenses popped up after you bought it?
Well, just like the fees and like the title process and then commission, and we added a little more because they put in like a washer and dryer and an air conditioning.
Yeah.
But the first thing that happened was the heating system was not ready to go. We'll put it that way. It gets pretty cold here in the winter.
Oh, yeah, you need it in India.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, so I moved in October, and so I was just spending money, and yeah, I spent at least $400 or $500, which isn't that much, but more than I expected. And
It
none of
adds
that
up.
yeah, and funny enough, none of that did any good. My uncle actually came out and has HVAC license and did what needed to be done himself. Cost like that, like I said, it was like $400 or $500, which I wasn't expecting. Which, yeah, they can add up.
I highly recommend an emergency fund and a bigger emergency fund once you become a homeowner, just because inevitably something comes up. Whether you have a new home or an older home, we bought our home last year and it's new. We are finishing our basement and I wasn't going to do the electrical because I don't want to get electrocuted. So I figured I'd farm that out to a professional, and we went and got 3 quotes. The first quote came in at $4,000, second quote at $9,000, and the third quote at $5,000. So get multiple quotes and have an emergency fund.
Yeah, definitely. Wow, I can't believe those quotes are so different.
Yeah.
That's good though. That you have got 3 bids.
Yeah. I recommend that when you're doing repairs, just because you never know, like I think especially for me, I don't know if you would find yourself in this boat, but just being a new homeowner, I've never paid for electrical work before. I don't know what it's supposed to cost.
True. Yeah, me either. Yeah, not yet.
Hopefully you don't have to. So do you think you're going to be on track to hit your savings goal of 1.2 million or 1.3 if it gets adjusted upwards?
Not at the moment,
Mhm.
but it was kind of a trade-off. So like some of my Robinhood account left, but assuming I can sell the house one day, at a similar price, I picked up some equity there. So I think I would just have to probably bump up the Robinhood again or the Roth. One thing I forgot to mention that's kind of interesting, and you might know more about this than me, is I have a life insurance policy, which I don't fully understand, to be honest, but I put $150 into it. And the idea is that I think it's pretty much 30 years. You start, assuming I don't die, basically.
So we don't want that to happen.
Well, thanks. I would have the opportunity, like basically dividends from that, or take it all out.
Is this a whole life policy?
I'm sorry, I forget what it's called.
It sounds like a whole life policy just from the way you're describing it. Term policies generally cover you for a certain term, like it might be 10 years, and then they're just done. They're not looked at as potentially an investment vehicle, whereas whole life policies are, some people try to sell them as an investment vehicle. They say, oh, if you don't die, it has a cash value. Does that sound?
Yeah, the second one, definitely. At least that's what it was advertised to me at. And
Okay.
I trust the guys that were selling it to me. So I hope that's how it all works out.
Um, I'm not a huge fan of whole life policies, just to be frank.
That's fine.
Ultimately, the fees are high on them and they do have high commissions.
Yeah.
Are you in a position where you need life insurance right now? Do you have dependents?
No, I don't. So yeah, from that aspect, I wouldn't need it. The only other selling point was that it was theoretically it's cheaper. Say I did one day have a dependent, it's cheaper to start younger because I started like 3-4 years ago now. So that was one selling point. And yeah, I appreciate your viewpoint because
It is much easier to start younger for sure, because your odds of dying when you're younger are less. Term is still going to be cheaper than a whole life policy, if you started at 40 or 35, as opposed to having started it at 26. Comparatively, term would be cheaper in the long run. I like term. I'm sorry.
Okay. That's okay. No, that's good to know. That one, so that came about. A friend was like, oh yeah, I have this, well, it's, I don't want to call them salesmen because I honestly think they're trying to help people out,
Mhm.
but they're also salesmen. And she's like,
Mhm.
oh, I have this, these people that have been helping me out. And so I went and visited, and uh, I'm easily persuaded sometimes. And so anyway, I hope it all works out. And also the way I see it, it's only $1,800 a year. So, and obviously there is a benefit. But yeah, I agree. It's probably, if you want to talk about a return, it's probably not the best
I
return.
would say anytime somebody tries to sell you something, especially in finance, if there's a commission involved, I would just there it's not to say that it's bad, but I would just say like heavily scrutinize what they're telling you.
I don't know, honestly. The idea was you should basically kind of get a lot of it back in
Mhm.
retirement is kind of the idea. So I hope that does happen. I'm sorry, I don't have a better um, answer on that, but I do appreciate the advice. I wish
I
I would have.
just assume they're making their money somewhere. So,
Yeah, because
mhm.
they're investing the money meantime. So like they're taking all this huge pot of money they have, and they invest it.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's interesting. Now I also agree with talking about commissions. Like
Mhm.
there's also, so I got the Roth IRA through them,
Mhm.
and there's also commissions on that.
So they're charging you a commission on your Roth?
Yeah, so um, it's gonna sound really high, but so it's like whatever you put in, it's 5.5% for that year. So that's bad, but there's not a commission on that the rest of the time, if that makes sense. So like when you take it out, there's no commission.
I think I know
No,
who you're investing with, by the way.
yeah, but like, later watching like Graham Stephan's channel and then
Mhm.
your channel, it's probably not the best option. You should probably go with like the low cost
Can I
index.
ask okay, so they take their 5% right off the top before any money goes into the fund. Then
Um,
once
yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
then once your money's invested, what kind of funds are you in? Are you in index funds or traditional actively managed mutual funds? What does that look like?
So with the Roth, it's all in a mutual fund.
Hmm.
Just like I would say it's pretty equivalent to, like an S&P 500, but
Yeah.
obviously they can kind of make their own decisions.
Uh-huh.
One of the selling points, again, um, it is a good point, a very good point. I don't know if it's true or not,
Hmm.
but one of the selling points was that, you know, and that 1% can make a big difference.
Yes,
And
it can.
and you know, at the time I didn't know better, but assuming, so I think this fund's return over time was like 9%. And
Hmm.
so like they're saying, well, we're gonna beat the market by 1%, roughly, kind of. And my percentages might be off. But that was the selling point is, 1% of say, say you just go with 100,000, that's still $1,000. You
Uh-huh.
say, no, is that going to work out? I don't know, especially after the commission. Probably not, but
So even let's say in a hypothetical world that they can beat the market by 1% every year,
yeah,
which is highly unlikely, just to
yeah.
put that gently, they're lopping off 5% in the beginning.
In well, yeah, anything you put in.
Yeah. Um, you're not stuck there. You could open up a Roth with Vanguard, Fidelity, they won't take 5% of your money. If you put $400 a month into your account, $400 a month will go into your account.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I kind of like these guys, and
Oh,
I feel kind of bad doing that, but might have to at one point, especially if I have a family or something, because every little bit makes a difference.
I'm just anti fees just because I know that they eat away at performance, and I would just be highly skeptical of someone saying that they can beat the market, because if you're out there watching financial videos on YouTube, as I know you do, the odds of beating the market are not very good. Most people cannot do it. You kind of have to be the person who has the Midas touch, and most of us are not Warren Buffett. Most investors aren't. But I mean, investing is personal, and if this is the investment that helps you sleep at night, that's probably the investment of where you should be. I would just say that the fees are very high.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And at the time, I hadn't watched as much as I have now. I think that, honestly, that kind of started my journey down the rabbit hole of finance YouTube, because I
Yeah.
was curious, like, does this make sense? And at the time, well, and to be honest with you, they kind of gave me the idea of a Roth IRA, and I was like, at the time, I thought it was better to get started than not do
Yes.
anything.
Oh, for
And I also,
sure. Yeah.
and then maybe I just have a guilty conscience. And he even he was very honest. He's like, well, you could go somewhere else now that we've given you this idea, and, buy your own. And I felt bad at the time, but might have to do my own thing one day, or at least split it up and see what happens.
Well, I think regardless of fees, getting invested earlier is far more important, and getting started is more important, because you're never going to generate wealth if you aren't investing. So getting started by all means is the most important step. And if you feel like it's a fit for you, that's great. If you, at the time that was the right decision for you, that's great. If you learn more and decide to make a different decision going forward, that's also great. Like, we are ever evolving human beings. We don't have to be locked into a decision we made at one point. So you're not stuck at any point. If you feel like you made a decision out of guilt, I don't know if that's the best reason to make a decision, but ultimately you have to be happy with your financial choices, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So you make a decision with whatever information you have at the time. And then if your mind changes down the road, maybe you make a different decision.
Yeah, for sure. Um, One thing I was gonna mention
Yeah.
was kind of on topic still, was so like I said, I mentioned that's a mutual fund, and so the 401k at work is kind of like just like an index fund, pretty much. They have an
Mhm.
agreement with whoever, it's a low fee, pretty much like if you bought it on your own. You have some choice, but I pretty much just went with, a mix of the basic things like index fund.
Yeah.
But the pension isn't a target fund. So it's like, I was curious your thoughts on that. Like I think mine is 2060.
I'm
So
a big fan of target date funds, honestly. Like, to my friends who are just getting started investing, I always recommend them because they give you instant diversification. They progressively get less aggressive as you get older and approach retirement. And I think they're a great way to start out. Once you've accumulated a hefty amount of assets, then I think it's time to maybe wrangle in a financial professional and get their opinion. But I think they're a wonderful way to start out investing.
yeah, it's easy.
Yeah.
Don't think about it too much.
Kind of set it and forget it. So do you have any financial plans for the next decade, 2 decades?
Two big goals I have. One is I would like to, um, I don't know if it necessarily has to be bigger, because I don't, um, but just maybe someday a different, or a house in a location that's more convenient. I kind of was um, it's kind of an emergency situation. I had to be out of where I was, so I
Yeah.
was maybe rushed it, to be quite honest.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I would, that's one, is I'll put a better location. That's the way I'll put it for my house, which will
Yeah.
probably end up costing some money.
Yeah.
Um, but my second and really my only other goal financially, um, is I would, like I said before, I would like to retire by 55,
Mm-hmm.
um, or 45, um, from my job
Yeah.
in accounting. But because then I would like to farm.
Okay.
Um, but it'd be nice to be in a position where I didn't have to farm, if that makes sense.
Yeah, just
If I
more, it's a hobby and you don't have to rely on the income, but it's nice if it generates an income.
Exactly. Well, I want it to be more than a hobby, to be honest.
Okay.
But I want it to be okay if things fail.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. I mean,
I don't,
life's a little easier if you don't have the financial pressures, of course.
yeah.
What kind
Yeah,
of
I don't,
farm are you interested in?
well, so yeah, I guess I should have prefaced this. My dad is a farmer,
Hmm.
so that's what he does. I'd like to take over for him one day. The only area I would like to get more into would be vegetables.
Okay.
He, I mean, they, just have some sweet corn and, other garden things, but, um, and by vegetables, I mean like tomatoes, sweet corn, things like that, and maybe even start selling some of that, because it is um, I don't know what you'd call it, a grain farm and
Yeah.
uh, a beef farm. So
Yeah.
that might be the part aspect I might want to try out. Well, I guess I just wanted to say one quick thing. I was watching one of your latest videos, and I thought it was super interesting that you kind of started investing because of your grandma. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's actually the same thing for
Yeah,
me.
really?
Yeah, my one grandma. It's kind of, if you knew her, you'd think it's kind of funny, but she got really into investing at some point along the line, and she's the one that, yeah, kind of introduced the idea to me.
That's awesome. I love grandmas who invest. That's really great because I think, back in the day, it wasn't necessarily seen as the women who invested. In my family, it was the case. And so I love hearing other women investing, especially back in the day, just because it was kind of rare back then.
Yeah, I've learned a lot, and I know when she started, like to buy a stock in general, I think is a lot harder. And
Yeah, absolutely. It's a little bit different
now,
nowadays.
but
What do you think are your biggest money lessons you've learned thus far, and what do you wish other people knew about money?
well, like I think you and a lot of others would say, start young. If you're like 18 and have some money, go for it.
Yeah, why not?
That gets complicated when, you probably start off with some debts and things like that. But, if you have a loan, sometimes those, one thing I really picked up from Graham, a big thing I picked up from Graham Stephan's channel is how even if you have a loan, let's say, just say it's 4%,
Hmm.
if you're, or whatever it is, and even if you're investing, making 5%, well, it's still worth it to invest then, because you're making 1% more.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I think anybody watching you probably already knows that. But I guess my one thing is, if you're picking your own stocks, don't give up. um, by that I mean, um, if you be there for the long term,
Hmm.
um, because, um, well, I'll give an example. So the first stock I ever bought on my own was Home Depot,
Hmm.
and it was only $500. So I was only going to make X amount.
Yeah.
So but it did extremely well. And so I was like, and at the time I didn't really have any money, it's like, oh, okay. And then it continued to do well. So I should have held on to it. And the other example, probably the biggest example that I'm really upset about is like my grandma, like she said, or like I was saying. So she I think when I was a kid, bought me and my sister just a little bit of money in some stock.
Yeah.
And mine was Intel, and it did extremely well over time. I mean, it wasn't that much money because she didn't put that much money in to start off with, it was just kind of for fun.
Yeah.
But I was at such a high dividend. I realize now, I didn't think at the time. I was like, oh, I was in college, more money to pay off the loans. But I think the power of that, I can't think of it. There's a term for it, like the dividend growth, like your percentage of how much it's hard to explain. I'm probably not going to do a good job of it, but like, I realized that, well, say you bought a stock at $10 and then it goes up, but the dividend payout goes up as well. So even, your basis is still the same, but your dividends a higher percent of that basis. And that's what I learned from Intel.
Yeah.
And just to hold on to those type of things, because you're getting those dividends. But
Kind of like what Warren Buffett says, his favorite holding period is forever.
Yeah, no. If don't, I mean, obviously there's a time to give up. The company's going to go over, but like if you're picking your own stocks, which I think we both agree, keeping a reasonable percent, something you're not afraid to lose. But if you feel confident about something, don't give up. And especially if it's paying dividends, don't sell it just because it's went up if you think it might go up farther, because that's kind of where I think I made a mistake.
I got you. Well, I really want to thank you for doing this. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, no, thanks for having me.
I have a book to recommend for you. Do you like investment books?
Sure. I don't. I can't say I've read too many of them. But
this one's little. I think it's maybe like 100 pages. It's by Jack Bogle, the founder of Vanguard, and you might know that I love Vanguard just because I talk about them a lot. But it's called The Little Book of Common Sense Investing. I like that one, and I think you might get some value out of it.
Okay, The Little Book of Common Sense Investing.
And if there's a library near you, they probably have it because it's a pretty well-known book and it's been around for a long time. When it comes to investing, fees matter, and fees matter big time, especially over the lifetime of an investing career. Before our call ended, I recommended a book to Nathan called The Little Book of Common Sense Investing, written by Jack Bogle, the founder of Vanguard. If you guys know me, you know I love Vanguard, and one of the huge selling points for Vanguard for me personally is their low fee structure, the fact that they focus on the investor keeping more of their investing dollars. I'm not a huge fan of high fee structure investments, so I definitely think if you're paying high fees for an investment, it's worth looking it over and seeing if maybe your investing dollars are better directed elsewhere. Also, when it comes to the sale of financial vehicles, things like whole life insurance policies, often these are marketed as an investment, but they come with very high fees and commissions for the people who are selling them. So if you find yourself in a position where you're looking at life insurance, definitely compare the pros and cons of term and whole life, because a lot of times I think term is a better way to go, more cost effective, and it's in place for when you need it, when your dependents need that money if something were to happen to you. If you don't have dependents, you don't really have a need for life insurance. What do you guys think? If you would like to be part of the Open Money series, talk about finances, talk about your opinions on money, the goals you have for yourself, net worth, income, feature it all, I'd love to have you. All you have to do is send me an email at erintalksmoney@gmail.com. I post new videos every single week. If you got anything at all out of this one, please give it a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, or if you know of someone who might get something out of this type of content, please consider sharing. I hope you have a great day. See you. Bye.